Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Military Mind, bringing you news from the front lines. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Overnight, Russian forces attacked Ukraine with 1 ballistic missile and 126 strike drones. Ukrainian military officials said that the missile and 8 attack drones reached their targets. One of the primary targets of the Russian attack was port infrastructure in the Odessa region. A food warehouse on port grounds was damaged, but no casualties were reported. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drones carried out strikes on the Hanskaya airbase in the Republic of Adygea in southwestern Russia and on the Eurochem chemical plant in the region. In the early hours of the morning, residents of Maykop, the capital of Adygea, reported at least 10 blasts. The Hanskaya airfield belongs to Russia's Ministry of Defense and is used as a training facility. Turning to the front line, Russian forces have ramped up offensive operations across several sectors in recent weeks. The increase in assaults is particularly noticeable in the Zaporizhia area, where the intensity of attacks has at times surpassed that of the Pokrovsk region, to date one of the most contested sectors of the war. However, analysts note that Pokrovsk and Marinokhrad remain the most active and bloodiest sectors of the front line. Russian forces are concentrating around the settlement of Hreshchine, continuously sending infantry units into assaults as the two cities mentioned above are considered largely occupied. At the same time, Russian offensive activity towards Dobropilya has dropped sharply off. Analysts believe it will be much more difficult for Russian forces to reach Dobropilya from the southeast and east than from the south. Some experts also question the overall strategic value of this offensive for Russian command, arguing that it diverts resources from the attempt to capture the Sloviansk-Konstantinivka urban area. Moreover, a direct assault on Dobropilya would likely require significant reinforcements, as Russian forces could be suffering heavy losses while advancing towards the city. Now in the Middle East, a French soldier was killed in a drone strike on a military base in the Erbil province in Iraq. The local governor said that 6 French soldiers were also injured, though their wounds are described as minor. French media outlets, including BFM TV, report that this marks the first French military casualty in the Middle East since February 28th, when the United States and Israel began their strike against Iran. It is still unclear who carried out the attack on the French forces in Erbil. On March 12th, the pro-Iranian group Ashab al-Kaf, operating in Iraq, announced that it would begin targeting French forces in the region following the arrival of the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle in the Persian Gulf. Meanwhile, the United States reported losing a refueling aircraft over Iraq. A pro-Iranian group claimed responsibility, stating it had shot down the plane. According to military officials, the incident occurred in, quote, friendly airspace. 2 aircrafts were involved, one crashed in western Iraq, while the other landed safely. The pro-Iranian group Islamic Resistance in Iraq later claimed that it had shot down a US KC-135 tanker, saying the attack was carried out, quote, to defend the sovereignty and airspace of our country. Iran also conducted intense missile strikes on northern Israel, leaving around 30 people wounded. In the town of Zarzir, several buildings were also hit during the attack. Iran has released video footage showing extensive underground tunnels filled with high-speed unmanned boats, anti-ship missiles, and sea mines. The footage is being actively disseminated by Iranian state media and regional news outlets, attracting the attention of military analysts and international observers. The video shows long fortified galleries housing unmanned naval platforms, missile launchers, and ammunition designed for combat operations in the coastal areas. According to experts, such infrastructure may be part of Iran's asymmetric defense strategy in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Central Command has released video footage showing airstrikes on Iranian military aircraft. According to The Washington, the attacks were aimed at limiting Iran's air capabilities and reducing its operational potential. The footage shows damage to aircraft located directly on runways. Among the targets destroyed were C-130 Hercules transports, P-3F Orion maritime patrol aircraft, and IL-76 heavy cargo lifters. In the Donetsk region, Ukrainian troops continue to systematically destroy Russia's heavy weapons. This time, UAV operators from the Safesea unit of the 44th Separate Mechanized Brigade detected a Russian 2S7 Pion self-propelled artillery gun deployed in a firing position during an air recon mission. This 203mm caliber gun is one of the most powerful artillery systems used by Russian troops to shell Ukrainian positions and frontline settlements. In the Persian Gulf, the tanker Safesea Vishnu recently found itself under attack. According to available information, the tanker is linked to businesses operating with the United States. The incident occurred after a series of warnings and threats made by representatives of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. According to preliminary data, the ship was hit while sailing along a known maritime route. One crew member was killed in the attack, and several other sailors were wounded to varying degrees. According to regional media reports, the incident occurred after the ship ignored warnings issued by the IRGC regarding movement in waters that Tehran considers its zone of control.
خطوات حاصرة.
And with that footage, we conclude this edition of Military Mind. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.